We learned in our last video about what happens if you try to multiply some negative numbers times some positive numbers. If we have negative 5 times positive 2, that is going to give us a negative 10 as our answer. If you have a negative 5 times a negative 2, that will give us a positive answer. Again, remember, we learned that if the terms are alike, we get a positive answer, and if they are different, then we're going to get a negative answer. One thing that you might be asking yourself, though, in fact, it might be keeping you up at night. You're worried about what happens if we have more than two numbers that are being multiplied together. For instance, what if we have a negative 5 times a positive 2 times a negative 3? Then what happens? Well, the best way to do algebra is step by step. So let's just look at these two first. Negative 5 times positive 2 gives us a negative 10, right? Now we have negative 10 times negative 3, and that gives us a 30, but it's positive because there are the two negative numbers right there. So if you have a negative 7 times a negative 2 times a positive 3, what do you get? Well, negative 7 times negative 2 is positive 14 times a positive 3. You can either do that math in your head, or you could pull out your handy dandy calculator, which is not at all cheating now that you have reached algebra. Oops. 14 times 3 is 42. And that's how you would do that. Now, I could make it even more complicated. I could give you a string of numbers, like negative 1 times negative 1 times 3 times 2 times negative 1 times 6. Aha! That is a math problem worthy of some attention. What is your answer going to be? Well, I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply these numbers together real quick. 1 times 1 is 1, times 3 is 3, times 2 is 6, times 1 is still 6, times another 6 is 36. Now the answer is positive 36 or negative 36? What do you think? Well, the answer is negative 36. Let's look at why. These two negative numbers right here turn into a positive, right? I have another negative number right here, and he has no partner. He remains negative. So we're going to have this positive number here from all of these guys multiplied by that one negative number, and that's going to give us a negative answer. Let's try another one just to see if you've got the hang of it. What if I said 4 times negative 2 times 4 times negative 1? What are we going to get? Well, I'm going to do 4 times 2 is 8, times 4 is 32, times 1 is still 32, but is it going to be positive or negative? Well, I have this, and I have this negative number, and they're going to become positive. I don't have any other negative numbers to mess us up, so the answer is going to be positive 32. Now, if I were really, really, really tricky, which of course I am, I would say if you have 139 numbers, if you have 139 numbers, 5 are positive, the rest are negative, will your answer be positive or negative? Well, let's see. We have 139 numbers. 5 of them are positive. So how many of them are negative? We're going to assume none of them are 0. How many are negative? Well, that would be 139 minus 5. So 134 negative, right? So I have an even number of negatives which means they'll all match up, right? I would have exactly, I would have 67 negatives matched up with another 67 negatives, all to make positives. So my answer is going to be positive. If I said to you that you had 1 million numbers, and 998,000 of them are positive, and the remaining 2,000 of them are negative, what's your final answer? Well, your answer will be a positive number, because you have 2,000 negative numbers. 2,000 is divisible by 2, right? Into 1,000 and 1,000. They'll cancel each other out, so your answer will be positive. All right, let's try one more. Let's say we have 53 numbers. Any old numbers. None of them are 0. I'm going to tell you that 3 are negative, and I'm going to tell you that 50 are positive. What is your answer? Well, your answer is going to be negative. You only have 3 negative numbers. Negative number 1, we'll just call it X. We don't know what it is. Negative number 2, we'll just call it, well, I guess we should call it Y, since it might be a different number. And then we have negative number 3, which we'll call Z. So we have negative X, negative Y, negative Z. You multiply 2 of them together, you get a positive, but you still have this one little negative hanging out there, which makes your whole answer negative.